Colon cancer used to be something we worried about in people over 60, but now I'm seeing it in people in their 30s and even in their 20s, young healthy people who never thought this would happen to them. But the good news is that a large share, roughly 40 to 55% in some studies, of colorectal cancers are linked to modifiable lifestyle factors such as diet, weight, alcohol, smoking, or physical inactivity. Yes, almost half of the cases. How is this? Simply by changing what we eat. But the problem is most people don't know which foods are actually creating the environment for cancer cells to grow in their colon. They think they are eating normally, maybe even healthy, but certain foods are quietly doing damage every single day. So today in this video I want to tell you how these 5 foods secretly feed colon cancers, and I'll show you an easy way to identify and avoid the worst offenders. Hi, I'm Dr. Serralta. I'm a colorectal surgeon and proctologist in Dubai, and for the past 2 decades, I've specialized in minimally invasive colon and rectal surgery, including for colon cancer. So let's begin. First, let's understand how colon cancer cells survive. Colon cancer doesn't start as a large tumor. It usually begins as a single tiny cell in the lining of your colon that has sustained so much DNA damage that it starts behaving abnormally. That cell is like a bad seed in the lining of your gut, but that seed needs a specific environment to become dangerous. Colon cancer cells, like many other cancer cells, are incredibly energy hungry. Many cancer cells preferentially take up and burn glucose, a phenomenon called the Warburg effect. So diets that chronically raise blood sugar and insulin can create conditions that help some precancerous cells to grow. They burn it quickly and inefficiently using processes like aerobic glycolysis, also known as the Warburg effect. So they need a constant supply of it. They also need growth hormones, specifically insulin and IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1. These are normal hormones we all have, but when they are consistently elevated due to repeated spikes in blood sugar, high-calorie diets, and excess body fat, they can act like a constant grow, divide, growth signal to cells, including precancerous cells. A healthy colon remains calm and stable. A colon exposed daily to ultra-processed foods with fat, alcohol, or low fiber becomes inflamed. This chronic inflammation damages DNA, interferes with repair, and can allow abnormal cells to escape normal checks and balances. The colon is home to trillions of bacteria that help digest food, produce vitamins, and protect your gut. But a poor diet shifts this microbiome toward species that produce toxins and carcinogenic metabolites, dramatically increasing cancer risk. Here's the critical point. This doesn't happen after one meal. It happens after years of daily patterns. The same high-risk foods, the same low-fiber intake, the same alcohol consumption, the same physical inactivity. So the real question is, which food push your colon towards this dangerous environment and which ones protect it? Processed meats, like bacon, sausage, or deli meat. Alright, I know this one isn't new to most people, but let me be extremely clear about what we are talking here. I mean bacon, hot dogs, sausages, salami, pepperoni, ham, deli meats, and most cold cuts. These aren't just meat. They are processed, cured, smoked, salted, or preserved with chemicals like nitrates and nitrates. Now, does that mean that one slice of bacon is going to give you cancer? Of course not. But let me explain what's actually happening. Risk rises with frequency and amount. For example, the IARC reported each 50-gram daily increment of processed meats is associated with 18% higher colorectal cancer risk. Preservatives used in many processed meats can convert into nitrosamines inside your stomach and intestines, which are carcinogenic compounds that damage DNA. When you fry, grill, or barbecue these meats over high heat, you can create HCAs, heterocyclic amines, and PAHs, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, chemicals that have been shown to cause colon tumors in animal studies and are considered carcinogenic or possibly carcinogenic in humans. So if you are eating bacon or deli meat every single day for years, especially in a diet that's already low in fiber and high in calories, you are stacking the deck against you. What to do instead? Treat processed meats as an occasional food, not a daily habit. Don't build your breakfast, lunch, and snacks around them. Rotate in other proteins: fish, beans, lentils, eggs, fresh chicken or turkey. And whatever protein you choose, always pair it with fiber. Salads, vegetables, whole grains. Give your colon the protection it takes. Next, red meat, especially when you eat too much of it and cook it at very high temperatures. This includes beef, lamb, or pork. Red meat is classified by the IARC as a Group 2A carcinogen, which means probably carcinogenic to humans, with the strongest evidence for colorectal cancer. The mechanism is slightly different: hemhyarin and nitrose compounds. Red meat is rich in hemhyarin, which can promote the formation of nitrose compounds in the intestines. These can directly damage the cells lining the colon. Cooking method matters. Grilling, barbecuing, or pan frying at very high temperatures creates the HCAs and PAs we mentioned previously, the same carcinogenic compounds we just discussed with processed meats. There is also the displacement effect, and this is something that people forget. When you have more red meat in your plate, you usually have less room for beans, vegetables, whole grains, fruits. These are the foods that protect the colon, especially through fiber and the beneficial compounds your gut bacteria create when they ferment that fiber. So do you need to become a vegetarian? Not necessarily. This is what I tell my patients. Keep portion sizes reasonable. You don't need red meat every day. Try to make at least half of your plate plant-based. Vegetables, legumes, whole grains. Beware of overly charred blackened meat. That charred crust is not your friend. 3. Ultra-processed, high sugar and refined carb foods. Now let's talk about foods that might not seem like cancer foods at the first glance, but quietly create a metabolic environment that colon cancer cells like. I'm talking about sugary drinks and soda, candy, pastries, donuts, white bread, white pasta, and many packaged snacks. Ultra-processed foods, things with long ingredient lists, lots of additives, emulsifiers, and very little fiber. Why are these a problem? Blood sugar spikes, insulin, and IGF-1. So these foods are typically high glycemic. They cause your blood sugar to rise quickly. Your body responds with a peak of insulin and over time chronically high insulin and IGF-1 levels. These are associated with an increased risk of colorectal neoplasia, especially in the setting of obesity and inactivity. Weight gain and visceral fat. Excess calories from sugary and refined foods contribute to central obesity, a well-known risk factor for colon cancer. Visceral fat is metabolically active and increases inflammation and insulin resistance. A diet high in processed low-fiber foods and high in sugar is associated with adverse changes in the gut microbiome, which may promote colorectal cancer through inflammation and harmful bacteria metabolites. Although there are still too many gaps in our knowledge and understanding of how microbiome works with our body, and this field is in constant evolution these days. Think of it this way. Every time you choose a sugary drink and a low-fiber floury snack, you are giving your body instant fuel and your colon almost no protection. What to do instead? Drink water, sparkling water, or unsweetened tea instead of sweetened drinks. Choose whole grains instead of white bread and white pasta. And if you want something sweet, add fruit plus protein or fat like yogurt with berries or a handful of nuts to reduce the sugar spike. 4. A low-fiber constipating diet. This is less dramatic, but perhaps the most important. Colon-friendly diet isn't just about what you don't eat. It's about how much fiber you provide your colon each day. Fiber is like a cleaning crew and a protective shield for your colon. It bulks up your stool and helps it pass through the colon faster, reducing the contact time between potential carcinogens and your colon wall. It is fermented by gut bacteria into short-chain fatty acids such as butyrate, which have anti-inflammatory and anti-cancer properties for colon cells. Several meta-analyses have shown that consuming more fiber reduces the risk of colorectal cancer, with some studies suggesting that every additional 10 grams of fiber per day, especially from whole grains, reduces the risk by about 10%. So the worst diet for colon cancer isn't just about what it contains, but also what it doesn't. Very few vegetables, almost no fruit, occasional legumes, beans, lentils or chickpeas, mostly white rice, refined flour, meat and cheese. Over the years, this pattern slows down bowel movement, increases constipation, depletes protective HCAs, and doesn't provide your colon cells with the daily protection they need. Now, if you learn just one thing from this video, let it be this. Your colon loves fiber, and colon cancer generally doesn't like the environment that fiber creates. 5. Alcohol. Next one will be socially controversial, but not scientifically. Alcohol is considered a group 1 carcinogen, which means there is substantial evidence that it causes cancer in humans. Among the cancer it's linked to, is colorectal cancer. So how does alcohol affect your colon? When you drink alcohol, your body converts it into acetaldehyde, toxic compound that can form DNA adducts and directly damage colon cells. Alcohol also interferes with folate metabolism, which is essential DNA repair and methylation. Low folate and high alcohol intake is a particularly dangerous combination for colorectal neoplasia. Regular heavy drinking can cause inflammation in the gut, increase intestinal permeability, and alter the microbiome, all of which increase the risk of colorectal cancer. Now, does a glass of wine at a celebration itself cause colon cancer? No. Not from a cancer perspective. There is really no absolute safe dose. The amount and frequency of drinking increases the risk. This is what I tell my patients. If you drink, do it occasionally and in moderation, not every night by default. So, if you do drink alcohol, do it moderately. If you have a strong family history of colon cancer or have personal risk factors, seriously consider cutting back as much as possible. Your colon cells are listening to what you eat every single day. They respond to the fuel you provide, the hormones you trigger, the inflammation you create or prevent, and the bacterial environment you are cultivating. You have more control over your colon cancer risk than you might think. Use it wisely. If you found this helpful, share it with some people who needs to hear this message. Diet and lifestyle matters, but diet is only one part of prevention. Regular screening, starting at guideline ages around 40 to 45 years old or earlier if you have risk factors, remains essential for early detection and cure, especially if you are over 40. Take care of your colon. It's the only one you have. And thanks for listening.